Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Pop Culture Today. Today we have our spoiler review of The Last of Us Part 2. It recently came out. A few of us in this spoiler review have played it twice, and a few of us have only played it once. With that being said, I'm joined by Matt.
How's it going?
Miguel.
So,
as well as Trey.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, we all share pretty much the same opinions on this game. Matt, what did you think about, just freeballing it real quick? What did you think about the game?
All I want to say before we get going here is these are strictly our opinions.
Mhm.
All right, I don't want anybody getting upset or angry if you agree about something you don't like. I think just wants everybody to be respectful, especially if anybody's in the comment section, because I know how the comments have been lately for stuff. And that's what I want to say. But for me, dude, I'm gonna be real with you. I love the game.
Mhm.
I think it's really great.
Mhm.
I think this game's definitely different, and I think it's different in a. It's very difficult to put into words sometimes, but it's very different in a good way. It's not like different like in a bad way.
Yeah.
I can see where people could get the interpretation of it being different in a bad way, but to me, I don't know. We'll get into that part later. But I really like the game. I think it's fantastic.
Got to hear
personally.
that. Yes, sir. What about you, Miguel? What did you think about the game? First impressions.
I thought it was absolute trash. No, I'm just kidding. I loved it. Yeah, I loved the storytelling of the game, and we're going to be getting into the spoiler stuff in a bit, but I'm not going to, go into why I love it. But yeah, it's great. The gameplay is great. The sound design, and this is awesome. Like, freaking, I know that you said many times, like, I love to hear people scream in a game. And as morbid as that sounds,
yeah.
Hey, like, the sound design is great. Like, they have it to a T. And also, like, I guess the way that you could just finish people is just brutal, too. And, yeah, those are my general opinions on the game. Like, it's great. Like, with those storytelling, I can see why people are mad about it and everything and stuff. But, hey, like, I think, like, not everything should be a Disney movie.
Yeah.
It shouldn't all have a happy ending at all. And I believe that this game really captures how grim it is and how unforgiving. And the main theme of it is pretty much revenge. So I think it covers that perfectly.
I couldn't have said it better, man. What about you, Trey? What you think about the game?
For me, I hold games up on a pedestal, especially games I love the most. For me, I have to, like, Last of Us 2 is a 10 out of 10 for me because of the symbolisms it uses, the themes that it uses, and it's just we're gonna get to all that later. But like, yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm gonna have to go into it a little bit go into the themes and everything a little bit later.
For me, at least, I think everyone here, we really loved the first game, as so did I. And I feel like Matt has reiterated this time and time again that this game does feel like a part 2. It doesn't feel like just a sequel. Yeah. And I think, this game really, everything, I think I actually went to this game with lower expectations because 9 times out of 10, a continuation of a story normally isn't as good as the first one. The first one is always, it really sets that bar high. So I didn't go into this game thinking it would be better. But finishing the game, I've come to the conclusion that it's not better than the first one. They're both amazing in their own right. They're both 10 out of 10 games for me. It's Last of Part 2 brings a lot to the table that the first game didn't. And as far as the how gruesome and just brutal the game is, and visceral and impactful the story is, and the character development, I really do enjoy this game, and I believe that this will stand the test of time. So with that being said, I would love to get into these leaks real quick. I would love to have the conversation about this cancel culture surrounding this game, everything that people are pissed off about, and what these leaks truly did for The Last of Us Part 2.
And one thing I want to say also beforehand, we're saying if you're in here, if you don't like it, that's totally okay. If you play it, if you give it a chance, it's just your opinion. People that I don't agree with, people that obviously haven't played the game, are like really hating on it. People are just being like really awful to the developers. But to me, I understand why some people wouldn't like this game. I feel like it's a very honest game in a lot of ways, and it's very eye-opening. I think as a human, it's really difficult to sometimes watch stuff that I don't know. there's a lot of themes in this game I feel like we as human beings kind of ignore in life. Like we always like a very good one. Like the whole game about the cycle of violence and stuff. It's very difficult to see that kind of stuff because I think we as humans we know that violence obviously is a problem, but games like this really the game's point of view in this, which I really like, is it's showing really about how bad it can be. And it's really eye-opening as a human being to see this. And I think a lot of people sometimes it's difficult to process it. So I think some people just kind of don't want to like it because I think there's a lot of tough subject material in it to agree with. But there's more on that opinion from me later. But I just want to put that in. I think it's a very difficult game to comprehend sometimes as a person to like really understand it.
100%.
Yeah.
So obviously, as we all know, I want to say it was late May, right, when all these leaks started coming out. Was it May or?
It was late April because in April they delayed it. It was supposed to come out May 29th.
Okay. So yeah, late April, a whole bunch of leaks started coming out. Cutscenes were leaked. Some story details were leaked. We saw Joe die. We saw all. Well, this is a spoiler review.
Yeah, no.
We saw Joe die. We saw Ellie get beat up by Abby, amongst other things, but we never saw the ending of the game. Oh yeah, Abby. She herself was a spoiler. Personally, the leaks for me, and I think you agree with this as well, Matt. The leaks for me made me even more hyped for this game.
For me, I'm a diehard fan of the first game. I don't know about John. To me, I feel like I'm the biggest fan of the game, the first game especially in here. Maybe not, but I mean, I don't know from my point of view because I love that game. It's very. I don't want to say it's a childhood game because I was 13 when I played it, but like for the last 7 years, the story and the characters really stuck out to me. So, the leaks and stuff. Yeah, I was kind of not the word is I was worried because of all the hate it was getting. But yeah, I think it did ultimately really, in the end, get me more hype because I think games with controversy are really interesting things to dissect and look at. Like with Modern Warfare that came out, there's a lot of controversy about that, which in my opinion turned out to be nothing. But yeah, no, I agree. I think controversy sometimes helps things. And I think in this case, honestly, it may have because I think it broke a lot of sales records, at least in Europe.
Oh yeah.
And stuff when it comes to physical releases, at least. I don't know about the U.S. I don't think the U.S. has their stats in yet when it comes to what was bought and what wasn't. But no, definitely.
I feel like a lot of things regarding the game, whenever these story details were leaked, were also misconstrued, and a lot of this stuff was not the correct information. So we got news that Abby was this super beefy transgender woman trying to turn into a man, and she kills Ellie amongst Joel with a golf club. There was just a lot of.
Druckmann was one SJW because he's if anybody knows Neil Druckmann, he's Biggie with Anita Sarkeesian. I mean, that's a whole other topic when it comes to that stuff. Do I always agree with it? No, but yeah, there's a lot of false information about what he was trying to do with this game. Yeah, he's a mess.
Yeah, SJW propaganda being shoved down our throats. It's just a whole bunch of stuff like that. When this game came out and it got review bombed, and I knew it was going to get review bombed. That was almost a given.
It's just the culture we live in nowadays. It was a given at this point.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Just the stuff I was seeing, knowing that I had played the game all the way through, not once but twice, seeing the stuff people were talking about in these reviews, I was like, I know you have not played this game. There's no way you are writing a review that giving it a 0 out of 10 and saying, all the SJW propaganda in this game is really being shoved down my throat. Neil Druckmann should be ashamed of himself for what he did with these characters and stuff like that. This is a game that I think we will reiterate in this video over and over again. It's a story that you have to play all the way through, and it's a story.
It's very polarizing.
It's a story that you have to experience in order to get. You can't read, an article and be like, oh, I understand the story. You can't watch a cutscene and be like, the story sucks because this character is beefy and looks like a man. You have to play this game. I can't.
And compared to the first game is super simple.
Yeah.
Compared to this.
And to prove anything for me, I saw most of the leaks and everything. And when I got to some scenes that were already leaked, it still hit me hard. With emotions and everything.
It did. And that's because what the first game did so well was character development.
Yeah.
We felt a genuine connection to these characters that we lost. But I mean, do you guys have anything else to say about these leaks? Because I just really find it atrocious.
I want to say something quick. I don't think this will ever get out there into like view of people who are in this game, like Laura Bailey or anything like that. But like, I genuinely feel really bad for Laura Bailey of anybody in the cast because she plays Abby, dude. She was like trashed so hard for her role. People were like giving her shit for it, especially after the game released and stuff. Because I mean, like, there's a lot of people out there who just can't identify an actress or an actor from their character they're playing. And to me, and especially playing the game, I mean, spoiler alert again, spoiler cast. I mean, I love the character of Abby. It's very people are probably gonna be in the comments if people people are probably gonna hate me for that. But I think there's a lot of deep storytelling with that character that needs to be done still, and I think that she did an amazing job. And I want to just give a big thanks to all the actors and the people responsible for this game, because I think without them, it wouldn't be as great as it was and wouldn't be as meaningful to me as it was, because they didn't deserve all the shit they got. Even Neil Druckmann,
I'm just gonna say this: if y'all want to sponsor us, then go ahead. I don't mind. All Naughty Dog.
Well, that's what Last of Us Part 3. We know what we're doing.
Yeah. Hey man, I'll take a review copy for Part 3.
Yeah.
We got Paul Rise of Skywalker and retcon everything in this game, though. What do you mean? You gotta get the sales back up. Part 3.
Yeah. We gotta bring Joe back to life.
Somehow. There's a dumpster you hit underneath.
So yeah, man. Yeah, man. These leaks, I really do feel like these leaks did a lot of good for this game. I really don't even want to say it did any bad, simply because the game gets bad reviews doesn't mean the game's bad. So I mean, I really do believe that these leaks did a lot of good for the game. It got its name out there even more than it already was. It got people talking about it. Just if you haven't played the game, don't base your opinion off a leak. And if you do, you are just not. I really gotta watch what I'm going to say here. Don't base your opinions off a leak. That's it.
And another thing also that comes down to it, people who are judging the game, fans that are mad and pissed in that Naughty Dog lied to everybody and stuff, I'm sorry. I'm going to be real with everybody that said that. There was no evidence whatsoever in those trailers that we were going to be playing as Joel. If anybody knows movies and film like we do in here, Jalen especially, they always do stuff like that to make you miss. Like in Endgame especially, they had characters pop up in scenes that weren't there. They digitally removed characters. They changed things around. People in the comments were saying, oh, they stole Joel from us, how Joel's supposed to be the main player of the game, that Neil Druckmann came in and ruined it. That was never the case. Yeah. The reason why he was in those trailer shots and the reason why they used it, they didn't want to spoil the story, because the story's... That's what really sucks, crucial. I think. It's very crucial. You can't... Yeah. The spoilers really, the leaks really messed it up, I think. I think it would have been better if there was no leaks, but... Yeah, there was no other way. I'm sorry. If you just assumed off of a trailer that we were going to be playing as Joel, and there was no one ever said that, it was never brought up. Multiple times I saw Ellie gameplay. I'm sorry.
Ellie was on the box art, dude.
Yeah. Like, and nothing against you. If you like Joel, that's great. I'm glad he's a great character. I love Joel also, but like, don't not play the game because you're not playing as Joel. That's a really bad excuse, in my opinion. That's all I want to say about the leaks, because to me that was a really stupid reasoning for being angry.
What I think is Joel, he had his character arc pretty much, fulfilled from the last game, and this game builds onto his character arc with what there's what is going on in the game, because Ellie, Abby kills Joel, and so Ellie is like trying to go get her revenge. I can't talk.
You're good.
And so, with that happening, that's a perfect story, but to just show the cycle of hatred and revenge that she takes on in the game is also good too.
100%. And
also what the to build off of what Miguel was saying, also to kind of show the give and takes of revenge.
Yeah. Like the symbolism of, how Ellie loses pretty much everything. She loses her ability to play guitar from Abby biting off her fingers. Well, biting off like 2 of her fingers and everything. Like, it's just crucial. Well, it's just freaking devastating, man.
Wait, wait, she can't play guitar now?
Yeah, she was missing.
It's pretty hard to.
Yeah,
I never noticed that. Well, I knew she was strumming it, but I didn't know that was the
thing. She was over here
she was missing strings.
Over here, missing notes and everything. Like, you could tell.
Yeah, well, I just never. That was a cool detail. I never knew that.
Yeah,
that's nice. Kind of.
Like, I kind of play guitar myself, and I'm like, well, that sucks. You legit can't play most of the songs. Those are like, for you to actually play guitar, you're gonna have to flip. You're gonna have to learn it on your dominant non-dominant hand then.
Yeah. And let's talk about how we got there. Let's talk about the gameplay. Yeah. Let's talk about what it felt like to play this game. And me personally, go for it.
Before we get into gameplay, can we talk about the atmosphere of the game?
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
Because what they did with entangling Seattle into a forest, also, it makes it on both sides of the story as they change and everything. On Ellie's side, it feels more what's it called? I just had the word in my head. Dire feeling of that you truly are alone.
Yeah, dude, the level design, the environmental design in this game was really impressive and immersive. And normally third-person games really don't immerse me quite the way The Last of Us 2 does. Everything about it felt real. It felt like if apocalypse were to happen, this would be the result of a city without electricity and moving people 25 years down the road. So I really did cherish the amount of work that went into building Seattle from the ground up with all this foliage and overgrown areas and stuff like that.
And the most mesmerizing thing is whenever you first get to Seattle and you realize you were on a highway the whole entire time and you just can't even tell.
I think a very cool comparison also, the whole, like you brought up, Trey, but the whole how it's overgrown and stuff. The farther, I don't know if they meant to do this or not, maybe I'm just going too far into it, maybe I just took this away from the game. I think a really cool thing with the level design is it feels very claustrophobic at times, because of the trees and the buildings. But the further in, it's kind of symbolic for the further in Ellie goes into this revenge plot, the further in into the web she goes, the more and more, it's almost like a maze. Yeah, it becomes like a maze. There's so much there's just it just gets to the point where it's just so intertwining, you don't even know where you're at. It feels like the further into the city you go, the further into this this web of darkness you go. It's just I don't know if they plan on doing that or not, but I just took that away from the level design. I thought it was kind of a little cool thing I got from.
So me personally, dude, the best way I could describe the gameplay is the same. What we were used to from Last of Us Part 1, just more refined, a little bit different.
Amped up.
Yeah, I do.
Definitely more violent.
Up.
I loved everything about the Last of Us Part 2 gameplay. It is probably my favorite, gameplay system out of any video game I've played up until this point.
Did you guys know if you hold someone hostage and there's clickers around, you could feed them to the clickers?
I did not know that.
I saw it on this video. I was like, what the? And so I was just like, that's amazing that you could pretty much do that.
Dude, people who are saying this gameplay and stuff oh, they didn't do anything to innovate. Well, of course I'm not going to innovate. It's a sequel to. It's like Uncharted became a first-person shooter midway through. It has to stay to the same core gameplay.
Yeah,
you have to just adapt to it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the Last of Us gameplay works so well. And like I said, all they did was really refine it. They really made it more fluid and work better, a little bit more modern. I like it. I really do like it.
Some of the guns, the freaking the recoil and stuff, just.
Dude,
I don't know. It feels really gritty and in your face. The combat, it's very dirty. It's not a clean game whatsoever.
And then I also like the addition of even small things like the rope or swimming. It didn't become so tedious like the Batman Batmobile and the Arkham Knight. It was a perfect mix. Or
even for other Naughty Dog games, Last of Us 1 with the rafts and Uncharted 4 with the crates. I love those games to death, but they did have some pretty. Yeah. They reused a lot of assets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't get super bored of the gameplay just because I wasn't doing the same thing over and over and over again. I think that was very important.
And then it's also the tiny add-ins as each character has their own name and you can see them literally grieve as you take one out. That immersed me more because I don't know about you guys, but when I went back and played through the first one after I beat it the first time, I kind of got the combat for the first one got stale on me because of no one showed that at all.
Yeah.
And just the tiny add-in of that makes it feel so much more alive.
And it makes it feel like you're actually taking a life. You're not just these are people. They're not they're not just random NPCs that are just there for you to slaughter. I mean, they are, but that's not the point.
They're not just street thugs and stuff like in Spider-Man and stuff.
It's supposed to be teaching a lesson on the lines of every life is precious in a way, but but to Ellie at the moment, it's not. To her mission is clear what she's doing. Whoever gets in her way, but whenever you get killed, dude. As a dog person, whenever there's a dog I shot. It's a pretty prevalent dog, and his name's Bear. When I saw him as Ellie and the freaking owner cried out the name of the dog, I felt so awful. I'm like, holy crap, I literally just killed this person's pet. Like, I mean, I felt so bad about it. And then vice versa, if you kill the handler, the dog whimpers and gets upset. So it actually makes you feel something for the people you're taking out, even though they're like in your way. It gives you a weight to the loss. It feels like Ellie's doing her mission. But
another aspect that I like is, you know how you could like how it switches to like, you know, Abby's point of view and everything. You get more, you kind of feel more sympathetic for the characters whenever you go through the game like as Abby. Some people might.
Yeah, and
I did.
That's a common issue I see a lot of people have with the game. A lot of people are like, I don't want to play as Abby. Neil Druckmann's trying to make me feel sympathetic for this character. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I felt sympathetic towards Abby, but I don't think that's what Neil Druckmann was going for. I think the point in, you know, having all these NPCs have names and have relationships with each other and playing as Abby, it was supposed to show the effect of the actions of violence. It wasn't meant to make you sympathetic per se. I think it was meant to show you that on the receiving end, these characters do have lives, and these characters do have emotions and feelings and families. You know, it wasn't meant for you to be sympathetic. It was meant for you to understand that actions have consequences.
There's also two mirroring points of this game I really love with the gameplay segments or whatever, and that's whenever you first start off the game as Ellie, like after the whole intro and stuff with Joel. You're walking down through Jackson. It's really nice. It's like Christmassy out. There's lights. There's kids laughing and running. There's like, you look at windows, there's like school going on and stuff, right? Like it's a very peaceful town. Like everybody's just happy. And then like everything bad happens. You know, fast forward a few days into the Seattle part. You go to Abby. It mirrors the opening. You're walking through the stadium, her town, which is the stadium. You're seeing kids running. You're seeing them laughing. You're seeing them be. It's the same thing. It's just from a different point of view. To Ellie, the wolves, the WLF, these are terrible. Like they're terrorists. They're awful people. No one loves them. You know, it all just depends. I think the one thing out of anything people are probably annoyed about, I'm gonna keep reiterating this throughout this entire spoiler cast, is perspective. That's the key to this game, is perspective.
100%.
So I don't know. I love that.
Yeah, no, I feel a lot of people who do find faults in this game are faults that are more opinionated than factual. You know, I feel like there are faults in the game. You know, me giving this game a 10 out of 10 doesn't make it perfect. It just, in my own opinion, it means it's a masterpiece. It means that it's a great game that I will continue to revisit. However, I feel like a lot of people complain about this game is mainly like kind of, you know, schoolyard like type stuff, in the sense that
useless stuff.
Yeah.
It's not actual stuff.
So I, you know, that's really bothering me when it comes to people talking about this game is, you know, yeah, maybe you didn't like the gameplay, but you can't say that it didn't bring anything new, you know?
Yeah.
The threes and stuff are ridiculous. I'm sorry. You know, I understand. If you don't like the story, again, fine. You don't like the story. But that doesn't make the game a 3. Between the atmosphere, the score, the gameplay, just like the feeling of the game, there's a lot more that goes into a game than just the story. Story's a big chunk of it, sure. But the
which I haven't really
seen
seen people bring up at all.
No, it's always been the same complaints. It's like no one's talking about. And I don't want to listen to like a slander fest. Everybody who's being like, oh, you know, I don't want to seem like we're like just kind of like, you know, I don't want to say
if you like the game, you're wrong.
True. Yeah, it's not the case. I just in general in this culture, we've been so used to this. I think this game has really brought out into the open about how bad cancel culture's become. Because it's just if the cool things to hate and people don't really do, it's the constant same thing I see repeated. What people don't like about it, it's nothing new. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and you know, we were just talking about these characters. And you know, I for one, for the most part, I did love the character development, especially with our main crew like Dina and Ellie and Abby. And then obviously you had your throwaways like Jesse and Manny and, you know, Nora and stuff like that. But for the most part, I thought the character development was pretty spot on. And I felt myself, like I said earlier, to be sympathetic towards Abby, especially playing it the second time through, because you know, what Abby did to Joel, well, first off, what Joel did to Abby was terrible. What Abby did to Joel was also terrible.
And what's it called? And what Abby's father did to Ellie, what was going to do to Ellie was kind of just selfish.
The thing is with that, both of these games have stemmed off the idea of selfishness. Joel was a very selfish person. I wouldn't really say Abby's father was selfish, because he was contemplating. He was like, dang, this is a little girl and I have a little girl, and I want to put my daughter through this. And it had to come from Abby to tell her father, if I was Ellie, I would want you to go through with the surgery. You know, so even then, it's not like Abby's father was this this trigger happy murdering, child killer who wanted to do it, so I, even though he had a very small role in the game, I did enjoy his character for what he stood for. And overall, I just found myself to enjoy a lot of these characters. What about you guys?
Another thing that was kind of sad to me, that scene, we were talking about, like, where he was debating that, we saw Marlene, and it made me kind of feel really shitty about the first game, so I'm like, yeah, good, Marlene got what was coming to her. Bro, she was, like, out of anybody, she was the one fighting for Ellie to live. She didn't want to do it to Ellie. She was, like, pissed off. She's like, no. She's like, I'm not having you kill her for this. And then eventually, finally, I think Abby's dad outranked her or something like that, but I think she finally just had to give in. Like, she's just like, fine, whatever, do what you have to do, but she was pissed about it. She wasn't just like, okay, kill her, But from Joel's point of view, again, perspective, he saw Marlene didn't give a shit. He saw that she was just like, okay, if this means whatever, then just do it. But that's not what happened.
Yeah.
There's other things that took place in between.
So yeah, I really do love how Last of Us Part 2 captures, just not looking at things from all angles. Like, it really, people don't look at things, and this ties into real life as well. We as humans don't put into consideration other, people's feelings and thoughts and emotions. We, on instinct, think about what's best for us and think about what's best to those who are very close to us, those we love. I really do appreciate how Last of Us Part 2 puts into consideration, that thought process us humans have, and makes us play as Abby, a person who we have grown to hate for the first half of this game, and that we are forced to understand her pain as well.
It's also kind of a funny little thing about that. It's thought of off the top of my head. I didn't think about this before. The whole story of The Last of Us 1 was Joel and Ellie, who didn't get along at first, how they had problems, how they didn't want to work together, but eventually in the end they fell like they
felt like family.
Creepy. They felt like family. He ended up loving her like a daughter. She loved him like a father. They kind of do that in a weird kind of way to the player, because they make you not like this character, kind of like how Joel didn't like Ellie, but they throw you with her anyway. It's like you're forced to have to play as Abby. You're forced to you're like, oh my god, I don't want to do this because of this. But then over the course of the gameplay with Abby, you start siding with her, like Joel started seeing Ellie, and vice versa. In a way, it almost seemed like they kind of did a reversal, and they made the player fill in the shoes of Joel or Ellie, where they didn't want to be with that person, but they were kind of forced to in the moment. But then over the course of you playing as, when you start seeing why they're the way they are and what the reason is, you start understanding their character. Maybe again, I'm looking too far into this, but there's a lot of parallels I'm just noticing. It came down to how they set this game up compared to the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really do believe Abby is a great character. I think she was a great addition to the Last of Us franchise. And even characters like Mel and Owen, granted they're not in the game for super long, but what they stand for is so good. And then I see a lot of people complaining about Mel's characterization and how this woman's Neil Druckmann didn't care about the pregnant woman. She just threw her on the front lines and almost had her killed a lot of times. But we have to put in consideration, what was she good for? She was a person who was meant to be on the front lines. That's why they brought her along. That's why they tagged her along.
She was a medic.
So
a medic.
Obviously, I really just don't understand, I guess, a lot of the gripes this game has, because the game itself explains why a lot of this stuff happens the way it does.
It's very realistic. Isn't sugarcoat.
So I mean, and that's the thing. In an apocalypse situation, a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people are taking this from like a perfect world standpoint. In an apocalypse situation where things are already scarce as it is, just because someone's pregnant doesn't mean she can't do anything for the next 9 months. No, man, you have to continue to contribute. If you're a medic, you're gonna be there. That's just how it will be. So I felt a lot of sympathy for a lot of the characters that people online generally don't feel sympathy for. Abby being one of them, Owen, Mel, Jesse. I really do, because these characters just go to show how short and precious life is, and that a split-second situation can end it all for them. That's just me, at least. And speaking of the characters, the story of this game, oh boy, the story of this game. You guys want to take it off first?
So basically, this game picks up 4 years after the events of the first Last of Us, which, I'm sure everybody here has played it, not here, but people watching. know that happens at the end with Ellie and the Fireflies, and there's a pretty big plot point that happens at the end whenever Joel kind of goes on this like rampage because he's so pissed off about Ellie and he wants to get out of that hospital, and the Fireflies are after him. And out of pure love and anger, he kills the entire not the entire, he kills majority of the Fireflies in the Salt Lake City Hospital, which is their main base, resulting in the Fireflies kind of like being scattered around. Fireflies are kind of disbanded. They're kind of just like a ragtag groups of like scattered survivors now. You know, the surgeons were all killed, the doctors were all killed, yada, yada, yada. So 4 years later, it picks up with Ellie and Jackson, wherever we sort of left off. You kind of fill in the blanks a little bit. I'm not going to go over the whole story. You're going to fill in some blanks, you know, between like what happened via flashbacks and stuff. And then, so basically, what's really surprising is whenever you're playing it, you go to this random character named Abby, we find out. She's with this group of people, and they're tracking down a known person. We don't know the person's name. They're looking for a human survivor in the Jackson community. You know, lo and behold, events coincide when they're on supply runs, and Tommy and Joel rescue Abby. She's being attacked by a horde of the infected. They keep her. They get her out of there, and they rescue her. And they regroup with Abby's people in this old like mansion up in like the hills, and it's all snowy and stuff. So what happens when they get inside the mansion and stuff? Basically, you find out via the game that this Abby girl is looking for Joel. And the reason why she's looking for Joel is because it really goes back to that point of the hospital where the random doctor that we killed in the first game, that we just like, oh, it's just a random throwaway. You know, he has a scabbard. He's not scabbard, the scalpel. And he's like, you know, I won't let you take her. You're like, okay, get out of my way. So you just kill him, right? Turns out that was actually her father, and that plays a major plot into the whole theme of like people are people, cycles of violence, because just killing that random person we thought was just a random person in the first game set in motion the chain of events in this game, and that was connected to a human being, which was his daughter. So when she gets her hands on Joel, she does some pretty awful things to him in front of Tommy, and then Ellie finds him, and they hold her down afterwards trying to escape, and they beat Joel to death with a golf club. It's really, really brutal and kind of sad and depressing. Pretty much just sends Ellie on this revenge-seeking quest across the West Coast over towards Seattle to go after Abby and her friends. They're part of this organization called the Washington Liberation Front, aka the WLF, or Wolves, and they're locked in a battle with another group called the Seraphites, or Scars, over territory in Seattle, which is a religious cult. So you're playing as Ellie through half the game, and you're just doing all this revenge stuff. And then halfway through the game, things transpire. You see Abby's perspective, it rewinds the clock. You follow her through Seattle for those first 3 days like Ellie did. And then at the end, it comes together in this epic kind of showdown between Abby and Ellie, and you're kind of like, you don't really know who to root for. You're just kind of there, and you're kind of playing through it. And then it's really all about who you think you sided more as a person and as a character, because neither are right or wrong. And at the end of the game, Abby lets Ellie go a second time, because she let her go before, because they weren't after them at Jackson, they were only after Joel. And that's all, because they were just getting payback for what he did to her father. It wasn't because of the whole Ellie thing with the infection. Just wanted payback for Abby. They let Ellie go a second time. And then we go into this epilogue, which I call an epilogue segment, where it's her and Dina, which is her girlfriend. I probably didn't mention that, because again, I'm kind of... it takes forever if I just explain the whole story. And they're living in this farmhouse outside of Jackson. And Ellie she kind of has this PTSD after seeing Joel. Like, you see it from the trailers where her hands shake, and she gets like really upset because she witnessed a brutal act in front of her. Like, you witness somebody you love it brutally murdered. I mean, of course she got PTSD. And it kind of sets her back into this mood of, like, she doesn't feel like she got the justice she deserved. And then Tommy kind of talks into it. It's a big blow-up mess between that. And Ellie can't take it anymore, so she takes off. And she finds out that Abby and this other character you meet through the game named Lev are on the West Coast at this place. She doesn't know they were captured. She was tracking them down. Pretty much at the end of the game, she finds her after rescuing these prisoners from this, like, this slave group called the Rattlers. Not really important. There's kind of side characters. And at the end of the game, Ellie rescues them. Abby's like really beating them malnourished and stuff because she was there for weeks and upon weeks. And when they're trying to escape, Ellie's standing there. She looks down at her hands and they're covered in blood. Because she's just kind of thinking back at everything she's been through, everything she took the sacrifice to get here. And she keeps seeing flashes of Joel in her vision of his beaten face, and he's all bloody and just dead on the floor. And then she just gets this kind of like how Joel got this flash of anger at the end of the first Last of Us. She out of anger, she takes the switchblade, she goes over, she says, "You're gonna fight me," to Abby. And Abby's refusing to fight her. She doesn't want to do this now. And then Ellie threatens the kid that Abby's with, and she says, "You're gonna fight me, or else, I'm gonna kill him." And it's the whole debate about whether that's right or wrong. So they start fighting, and then at the end, Ellie has the upper hand. She's going to kill her. And when she's choking her out under the water, because it's on the beach, she's drowning her. Ellie starts getting these flashes and happy memories of Joel, playing guitar and smiling at her and stuff. And she's just sitting there, and you can see her face. She's like anger, baring her teeth, like this hatred inside of her. And then she starts turning to crying. She just can't. She's sitting there, like, you know that she has this mental struggle she's going on with right now. She knows that what she's doing. And in the end, because of her character created Joel, because, I mean, I love Joel, but he's not a great character. He's not, he's a good character, but he's not a great person. She can't go through with it, and she lets Abby go. And that's where the major controversies come around of, like, what was this game really about? Was it worth it? All this, like, misery. In the end, she lets her go. Ellie kind of goes back to Jackson, and she's kind of scarred from these events, and it's about her kind of, like, acceptance, and now she's kind of into that grieving period of, like, it's taken time for her now to, like, kind of process things and kind of be on her own, and she just kind of walks off. She leaves Joel's guitar behind, and that's the end of the game. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of debate going around whether or not it was the right move to keep Abby alive or not alive. And that's where this kind of, where we're going to have a major talk about here, I guess, in the spoiler cast, is about what we think the themes are and what the point of the game's about. So that's kind of a rough summary of the game. And yeah, so gentlemen, I'll let you take it from here.
I, for one, I loved the story of this game, as you guys probably know. Everything flowed for me really well. My first playthrough, I did not like the beginning parts of Abby. I really thought they were tedious and just boring. But by the time I got to my second playthrough and I was playing as Abby again, because I knew what the ending was, it felt more rewarding to play with Abby the second time around, and I felt more genuine and passionate about the character, because not everyone does bad things just to be bad, you know. I love the ending. I thought the ending was perfect in the sense that, if Ellie would have killed either Lev or Abby or both, she would have been no better than Joel, or she would have just caused a whole nother issue that would have spiraled out of control and came right back at her. The fact that she didn't kill Abby shows that, it wouldn't solve anything. Her killing Abby wasn't, this wasn't about achieving revenge. It was a revenge story. I mean, they were both in the end left with nothing. Dina left Ellie, and Abby lost all her friends. The only person she had was Lev at that time, and the only person I guess Ellie still has is Tommy, if we really even want to say that. I mean, she emotionally and physically pushes Joel away by leaving that guitar in that farmhouse and walking away, because and that's one thing I love about the scene. Whenever she's trying to play the guitar and she just can't, the way I like to think of it is, Joel taught her how to play the guitar when she was younger. The thing is with that is that is Joel's thing, that was Joel's purpose. He wanted to make music. He wanted to, that's what he lived to do. I feel like for Ellie, she is living to fix the world, and that is the symbolism I see in her becoming the astronaut she always wanted to be. She wants to, be above the world and know that it is okay in a way. And I feel like her setting down that guitar was her setting down that part of Joel that was still in her, simply because she is not Joel. She is not the person that was going to, exact revenge just because she wanted to. That is something Joel would do. I love the story. I love how it wrapped up. I love how we got to the conclusion. Everything about it was picture perfect for me. And I couldn't have
imagined. It's a very polarizing ending.
It is, 100%. Because the typical person would be, she killed Ellie's father figure. We got to get her back. This was Ellie's dad for 5 years now, which, reasonable, but this isn't a cliche story, and that's what I love most about it.
Well, I think also, before you say your point, there's something else also I firmly believe in is in a way, this game, and it's kind of ironic, and I think it's kind of funny, I'm kind of glad that it's doing this, it's with all this hate with this game, it's kind of proving the point about what the game's about with violence and stuff, because people are so the reason why people are so wrapped up is because we didn't kill Abby, because Joel got killed. Mm-hmm. That's the people are like, oh, we didn't get our justice, we didn't get Joel. People are missing the point. This is what the game's about. Us as humans we're violent creatures at heart. We're angry. We get angry. Anger is violence. We just don't we don't do anything about it. Most of us don't, because of rules and laws and regulations. But the whole point of this game is about how violence causes problems, and the circle of violence just continues. And the thing that's funny is it's proving that people want Abby dead. It's like, that's the whole thing. This is showing us as humans that we are violent. People are angry that she's not dead. People are missing the entire point of the story about what's trying to prove to human nature. And in the process, it's proving human nature by doing that. Like people are so upset, and people are because they're not focusing on the thing, they're not focusing on the happiness. They're focusing on she didn't kill her. It's all about killing. It's not about like they're not focusing on the impact of the story. They're so wrapped up on whether or not Ellie did what she did. They're not focusing on like what is the bigger picture and what's the bigger themes and us as humans, what's right, what's wrong. That's just what I'm taking away from the game, especially. I think it's just kind of proving their point, honestly. All this anger about the game.
For me, the themes and the parallels I started seeing was early in the game because as time goes on with Ellie, you kind of start seeing her becoming more kind of like Abby with her lust for vengeance and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the opposite side, when you play as Abby, it's more of the Joel and Ellie vibe that you get from them when she meets up with Lev. And like near the end, where she's holding the knife towards Lev and she sees how much Abby actually cares, she starts getting more sidetracked as the fight goes on until she finally realizes it's kind of the same deal of what her and Joel had. There's like multiple times where you can just see a little bit of each character inside of the other. Like whenever it comes down to like how they both react to people that they've lost or got hurt.
To me, it kind of mirrors the whole thing along the lines of like Ellie is so. I want to say she's innocent at the beginning of the game. She's so like Ellie's just Ellie, you know. She's peaceful. She's doing her life. She has problems like every teenager has. But then the whole violent act happens with Abby. Like Trey was saying about how like he sees a little bit of each character inside of the other. It's kind of funny because the first part of the game is more like Ellie losing in touch with her humanity and her. I won't even say her. She's losing touch with her like innocence in a way. She's just like. She doesn't care. She's just doing it to be spiteful and angry. But then the second half of the game is Abby regaining her innocence and regaining her humanity by interacting with Lev. It's kind of like each character is learning from the other character without them actually teaching it to them. It's just kind of like the overall arcing lesson.
Yeah.
You know? It's okay to feel anger. It's okay to feel sadness. It's okay to be happy. But just don't let one way or the other take over you. That's what the whole game is about. It's like you can have emotions. You can keep them in check. Just don't let those emotions drive you to the point that's all you're living for is that emotion.
It all comes down to the end of the game, the ending epilogue, where whenever Tommy shows up and says, "Hey, I know where she is. I know where Abby is now." For Ellie, that's not really about. If you like think about what she's thinking, like what she would be thinking and everything, it's no longer about revenge. It's more about getting rid of the memories. For her, it's thinking that if she kills Abby, the memory of Joel would just disappear. And then once she gets that final memory at the end, it didn't take Abby to die for her to realize that she can move on from this without getting revenge.
Yeah.
Well, I think also she knew that wasn't what she wanted. I think when you saw when Tommy came talk to her, Tommy kind of like gave her an ultimatum. You know, it's like it's kind of like how any friend would be. If your friend's like, okay, you're either gonna do this for me or we're not gonna be friends anymore, depending on what it is. You know, it's just like you sit there and like, well, that's kind of like a really difficult choice. In a way, he was kind of like saying, okay, well, I can't go. And he's like, you made me a promise. He's like, and if you don't make that promise, then you're breaking the promise. He says, pretty much saying that like, you know, screw you. You lied to me in a way. So she's sitting there, she's like, okay, do I want to lose my relationship with Tommy, who's the other last remnant of Joel I have, because they're brothers, you know? But then she's also like, well, I don't really feel the need to go after Abby anymore, especially after Abby spared her. Abby had like the freaking...
She spared her so many times.
Yeah. Abby was morally, Abby honestly was more in the right than Ellie was throughout the game, like through entirety. I think Ellie knew that too, and I think she was just kind of wrestling with herself, even when she was in Santa Barbara, about whether or not she wanted to go through with it. And I think she just felt like she had to, or else that, you know, or else basically that everything else would be over otherwise.
Yeah.
One thing I love in the game that this game shows is the parallelism is between the two characters. I can't talk. But I love the parallelism between the two characters with, you know, how both of them are kind of like, you know, show like different relationships starting, different relationships, you know, going away from each other, and how each character on each side is kind of like, you know, a parallel to one another. Like with the death scene with Jesse and what's his face? What's his name?
Manny.
Yeah, Manny. Yeah, both of them to get killed pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
Very quick. And just
very quick. Shot in the eye.
And a lot of people actually...
It's both like the same way.
Yeah, and a lot of people actually complain about those deaths being too quick and not having enough, you know, build up. And my argument with that is, I mean...
That's life.
Yeah, I don't think
That's what I mean.
I don't think your death is gonna be built up. I mean,
any one of us could die any minute. Hell, we could be on the friggin' stream right now or wherever we're doing the video, and somebody could barge in my house and shoot me in the face. Like,
I
life's
don't
constantly about taking risks. It's gonna be a build up to something.
I really don't think everything needs a build up, nor everything will have a build up.
I think it honestly grounds the world more.
Yeah.
If it had a build up, then it would have been predictable.
And that's why I love, I wasn't expecting Manny I wasn't expecting Manny to die like that either, but I wasn't expecting Jesse to walk outside, and it seemed like as soon as that door opened, he was already dropping down, dude. So I mean, I just I feel like a lot of the complaints about this game, like I said time and time again, are complaints from people who haven't played it, and I will stand by that. If you are a person who's played this game, you cannot say, certain aspects are not justified when in all actuality they really are. It's one thing to have an opinion on the game, and hey, if you guys want to have a conversation with your opinions in the comments, whether you like the game or not, by all means do so. But it's one thing having an opinion about the game and you know what you're talking about because you played the game, and there's another thing reading a couple leaks and watching a couple cutscenes and thinking you know what the game is, and then giving it a 0 out of 10 just because you don't like it. Of course you're not going to like it. Everything's out of context. Everything is I mean, what do you expect? So
exactly.
I mean, hey, but as far as the game goes, dude, I love what it stands for. I love everything that this game stands for. I love the fact that this game really shows that love conquers all. Love conquers hate. Hate leads to nothing, and in order to really let things go, you have to come to terms with yourself, not to terms with someone who's wronged you. And that's one thing I cherish the most about this game, is because I feel like it captures human nature. And I think you said this earlier, Matt. I feel like it captures human nature damn near perfectly, in the sense that if someone killed a loved one of us, and we would obviously be pissed off and we'd want justice and revenge, but would we really go as far to kill that person, or would we realize that granted what they did was wrong, but what I'm about to do is just as wrong?
Well, also I think especially I'm gonna get a little bit what's the word? I'm gonna get a little bit I don't know the word is for it. Controversial. I'm gonna get a little bit controversial here too, and I think also this speaks heavily for what's going on now in the world, not even with COVID, but with the protests and the cops and stuff, and it just shows humanity, dude. Like, violence begets violence, fear begets fear. Like all this stuff. Like, there's ways of handling things, ways that aren't. Like like the violence with protesters and stuff. It's making things worse with that, and then cop violence making things like violence just feeds off of the violence, just like this game shows. Like, Ellie's slaughtering all these people, didn't do anything except piss off Abby even more, and then Abby kills somebody else. It's like, it's not going to get you anywhere. I'm so tired of like human nature. Everybody's like, oh well, sometimes you need violence to get what you need. No, you don't. I'm sorry. The violence to me is always a last resort, in my opinion. I think violence is just stupid. I think it's dumb in general, but this game really highlights about how ridiculous it is and how much of a waste of time it is to do something. There's a difference between justice and hate. That's why I look at it. Yeah, like this wasn't justice with Ellie. Justice would have been letting Abby sit there and contemplate what she did, making her think about it. Like, because that would. I mean, if my bash was based on the golf club went through with it, I'd freaking had nightmares about that shit. Dude. I couldn't live with myself.
And I think there were quite a few times where she did contemplate what she did. Mel ripped her a new one. Oh, yeah. Mel was like, "You're not a good person." I think she word for word, she was like, "You're a shitty person, Abby." And I couldn't be me. I would not say that to Abby, but
Where's the golf club? Get out of the way!
Yeah, Mel said that to Abby. Even I believe Owen said a similar thing. So I do believe that it was drilled in her head that what you did, Abby, wasn't the greatest thing.
Even like with the beginning, right? Whenever she bashes Joel's face,
Mel
and
was
it gets all like
just finish it. Whenever he was she was torturing her.
Like from Ellie's point of view, the beginning after she bashes Joel's face, and Ellie, all she hears is ringing because she's just the adrenaline. She's freaking out. Mm-hmm. She's not focusing on anything, and you don't hear them talking. What's funny about it is when you go back and look at it, there's a lot of debate after what just happened about whether or not that was right or wrong. Like, Owen's kind of pissed. Owen's like, end it now. He's like, I'm not doing this. He says, this isn't me going any longer, because I think he's just had enough to see the suffering, you know? And then, like, you know, Jordan was a piece of crap. Like, he was the one that's like, he wanted to kill. Like, a couple, like, Manning and Jordan were kind of being jerks. But, like, Mel was freaking out. She had, like, PTSD. Like, they were sitting there, and even Abby, I believe, after she bashed in Joel's face, when she looks at Ellie, you can kind of see that Abby's, like, putting two and two together, like, I just really just become what he did to my dad in her eyes, you know? And I think that's also why she let her go. I think she realized that, like, you know, killing her would have just been, I think even Abby at that point, and all of them, realized, like, yeah, they built up to this moment, like, oh, yeah, we want to track his ass down, and we want to kill him because of what he did. But, again, it shows human emotion. When they got there, they weren't even sure they wanted to do it at that point. They were so focused on their objective, they didn't ever contemplate whether or not it was the right thing to do.
100%. And yeah, dude, man, this game for me, it really, I think that's just the best way to describe it. It captures human nature. It really does. It shows human, you know, flaws and weaknesses, but at the same time, it shows human, you know, things that we are capable of. We are capable of forgiveness and acceptance, you know, and the ending of this game captures those two ideals perfectly, you know, forgiving, well, not really forgiving, but accepting Abby for what she did, at the same time accepting Joel for what he did, you know. This, you know, and at the end of the day, this isn't an Abby story. This isn't a Joel story. Both games are about Ellie. The Last of Us is an Ellie story. So if I'm looking at this strictly from an Ellie perspective, which I believe everyone should be, it's a story that has culminated so far to something great, in my opinion.
And dude, it also shows, it doesn't just show hate, it shows the beautiful things she was capable of doing too. Like, everybody's so quick to jump on the bandwagon about how her father's a sociopath, Abby's father, and how he's this awful human being. He was so worried about a zebra giving birth. He didn't even like care about the infection at that moment. He was just with his daughter. They were out, like, they were bonding. They were messing around, joking about her boyfriend. And even whenever Owen came, he's like, Doc, you know, the girl's here. The doctor, he didn't care. He wanted to make sure the baby was like, dude, he wasn't a sociopath. It shows that human, you know, there's tough decisions in life you have to make one way or another when it comes to anything, you know, whether it be a loved one on death's door and it's like, has a, like a life support, like pulling the plug, or whether it be like with him with Ellie, like, you know, yeah, it's awful what you have done to Ellie, but like, to him, it was worth the sacrifice. And again, he's not a sociopath. He cared about the freaking baby zebra over the cure before anything else. He was so worried about that. Like, he wasn't an awful human being. And it shows that humans are capable of love and hate and every other thing. And it just shows how we're all similar in that way.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much going to conclude this spoiler review of The Last of Us Part 2. We've had a lot to say about it. I believe we still have a lot to say about it. This isn't a game that you can just have one conversation about. This is easily a game that, even with these guys that I'm currently talking to, we've had numerous discussions about this game for the past week, and we're going to continue to have a lot of discussions about it just because the game is...
We can discuss our Dina theory.
Let's go for it real quick. Let's go for it.
You start the theory.
Alright, so, as we know, by the end of the game, Dina leaves Ellie, unfortunately. However, I believe that this happened because, you know, although Dina said, you know, I love you and stuff like that, and early on in the game, she was like, where you go, I go. It was more or less in the moment love. It was kind of like puppy love, you know, high school relationship type love. In all actuality, Dina knew that this wasn't the life she wanted to continue to live. She wanted to care for her kid. And, you know, although she may have loved Ellie, it wasn't, you know, a everlasting true love. Yeah, the spark was gone. You know, yeah, they kissed a little bit, they smoked a little pot together, but it wasn't, you know, you are the person I want to be with for the rest of my life. So with her leaving, you know, I feel like that was very symbolic. I feel like, you know, that further shows that no one at the end of The Last of Us Part 2 won. You know, Abby lost everything except for Lev. She is no longer a WLF member, as we know. Ellie lost everything except for Tommy.
Well, people left. They're all dead. The one with the scars. So.
Oh yeah, Ellie, she lost everything except for Tommy. So no one won. Then that's what I love most about this game. Matt, you also have something you want to say about Dina?
Well, there's a little line that goes along with your theory that stuck out to me in the games. Whenever you're going through it's in the beginning of the game, we're in Seattle, you're going through all these little shops, and there's a music shop, and they're talking about bands and stuff, how it used to be. And then it's talking about groupies, which are, if people don't know what groupies are, the people who pretty much just follow bands around on tour, and were massive fans, and they were just they were just pretty much just obsessed with them. And basically, Ellie makes a comment she was telling Dina what they were, and Dina's like, well, that means I'm your groupie then. And Ellie's like, how so? She's like, isn't that what I'm basically doing now? And in a way, I think it kind of confirms it. It's like she's pretty much just saying, yeah, I love Ellie. I'm just following her around, though, because I'm a big fan of her. It's not really I think she's just kind of following her.
And also, to make that a point, doesn't it also, that conversation ends there? It just straight to silence also?
Yeah, there's no follow up to that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't predict Dina leaving her, but I do like the fact that Dina left her, because it just goes to show, this further alludes to what Ellie said in the first game, in the sense that everyone I've cared about has either died or left me, and it's just, everyone in this game that she's cared about for the most part has died or left her. So that's another thing I love about this game. It sticks true to the original, and I can't emphasize that enough.
And people who say that they did a disservice and they don't understand the characters, I think that honestly the people saying that don't understand it, because Joel wasn't a great guy. He didn't deserve a hero's going out. He wasn't a good person. Joel, he was a great guy to us. We loved Joel. We saw his, softer side, but overall, what he's done to survive, what he did, he wasn't a good person per se. So I don't think he deserved a hero's death like he was. And I think he ultimately accepted that in the end. I think that's why he didn't fight back with Abby. I think he accepted. He's like, okay, he's kind of owning up for everything he's done. I think he wanted to show Ellie that too. Yeah. Because I think Joel could have at least tried to fight back. I'm not saying he would have won, but he let it happen. Even with that mess up, he could have still tried to fight back. But in the end, I think Joel even accepted it. That he knew that this was the cost of what he had done in this world. That he had to go out this way. As sad as that was. So I think ultimately, there's just a lot of things people just kind of skimming over the major plot points and not listening to dialogue and the themes about the game.
Yeah,
I think this game is ahead of its time, and I believe that I think some people who don't like this game, I'm not saying they're I just think the themes are going over their heads. Some of them, not everybody, not everyone. I believe a lot of people understand this game. They have the right to not like it all they want, but people who are just hating it and not focusing on the story parts of it that way, then I think this is just too complicated in the end for some people.
100%. And I've, after you said that, I've reiterated this fact in the sense that I really do feel like this is a game, 5-10 years from now, people are going to look back on it and be like, that was a great game. And it's just, I really do believe it's just because of the time we live in, this whole cancel culture, this, time of, misinformation, people are just going to get
anger,
up and wild about nothing. And everything that people were up and wild about wasn't even true in this game. So I
even like what you said, things, even if the game, I will say, I think there is probably some pacing problems in the game. I think they probably could have told it better in certain circumstances, but it doesn't mean the game's, I still believe it's a masterpiece. Like Jalen said, not everything has to be perfect to be a masterpiece. It can still be fantastic and still have some flaws in the end.
I mean, I think that's pretty much everything that we want to fit in this video, at least. Like I said, there are a lot more conversations to be had. This game is awesome. It is worth playing. It is worth checking out. Please do yourself a service and play it. Don't just, watch a review or look at a few leaks and judge it. Do yourself the service and play the game and form your own opinion. That is the most important part of video games and media. You have to experience it. So yeah, just do yourself a service, play it. It's amazing. We like it. We hope you guys like it. If you don't like it, let us know in the comment section why you don't like it. Let's have a good conversation, a constructive conversation. And yeah, any last words, guys?
Yeah, cliff notes of this video is Joel dies, and this game will age like wine.
It will. Fine wine.
We go.
Yeah,
Fine
that's
wine.
the perfect way to put it.
We appreciate you guys for sticking with us and listening to this spoiler review of The Last of Us Part 2, and we hope to see you guys soon. Take care.